לקוטי אמרים, ספר של בינונים, Perek Aleph, Tanya, Besof Perek Gimel Nida. So we learned in the end of the third chapter of Gemara Nida, Mashpim Mosos Tihi Tzadik, that the soul, before it comes down to this world, has to swear that it should be a righteous person, V'al Tihi Rasha, not to be wicked, Afilu Kol Ha'olam Kulo Omrim L'cha Tzadikata, and even if the whole world will tell you that you're righteous, you should still be in your own eyes as a wicked person. But we need to understand the Hatanan, Avos Perek Beis, because we learned in Pirkei Avos, chapter 2, that you should not view yourself as a wicked person. And also, if a person looks at themselves as and views themselves as wicked, your heart will feel bad, and you'll be depressed, and you will not be able to serve Havaya with joy and with a good heart. And if your heart does not feel bad at all about this idea, a person can come to not care at all about their spiritual state, whether or not they're wicked or righteous. But the concept is because we find in the Gemara 5 different divisions of people: Tzadik v'tovlo, Tzadik v'ralo, Rasha v'tovlo, Rasha v'ralo, u'beinuni. You have the righteous person who has good for him, the righteous person who has bad for him, the wicked who has good, the wicked who has bad, and the middleman, the Beinuni. And the Gemara explains that the righteous person that has good, he's a complete tzaddik. Tzaddik v'ralo, tzaddik she'eno gamor. And a tzaddik that has bad, he's an incomplete tzaddik. Because you might simply think that it means that it's a tzaddik who has a bad life or a good life. Amrim hemna parshos mishpatim perush tzadik v'ralo sha'rasha bo kafuf leto v'chulu. And in the Rai Mehemna in the Zohar, the discussion with Moshe Rabbeinu, who's called the Rai Mehemna, it's explained that tzaddik that has bad, it means that he has bad that's subservient to the good that's in him. That the bad is small in comparison and subservient. And in Gemara in Brachos it says, in the end of chapter 9, that tzaddikim, their good inclination rules them. And the wicked, their bad inclination rules them. And the middlemen, both the good and bad inclination rule over them. Amar Rabba, Kagon Ana Benuni. So Rabba said, look at me, if you want an example of a Benuni. I'm a Benuni. Amar le Abaya, lo shfeik marchai lechol birya. So Abaya answered him when he said this and says, Master, you don't leave life for anybody else, because if you're a Benuni, so who in the world could be a tzaddik? And the world has to have at least one tzaddik. Tzaddik Yisrael and so forth. And to understand this very well, and also to understand what Eov said, according to the Gemara, because this is not a pasuk in Eov. So, according to the Gemara, Eov said, Master of the world, you have created righteous and you have created wicked. But one of the things it says, that when a child is born, so a bas kol comes out and says this child will be rich or poor and so forth, but one of the things it doesn't say is whether or not it will be a tzaddik or a rasha. So how could you say that you created the righteous and the wicked? Also to understand the essence of the level of the Beinuni, that certainly it is not someone with half merits and half sins. So, because if so, how could Rabba make the mistake to think that he was a Beinuni? And it's known that by Rabba, he never stopped speaking Torah to the point where the angel of death could not rule over him. And how could he make a mistake with half of his actions being sins, God forbid. And further, because when a person does sins, they're called a completely wicked person, even with one sin. And if afterwards they do tshuva, they're called a complete tzaddik. So that's not together. That's not how you define it then. Meaning you don't weigh the mitzvahs against the averos to figure out it. And even if someone who transgresses a light prohibition from the sages is called a rasha, a wicked person, like it's brought in Gemara Yabamos and in Gemara Nida. And even somebody who's able to stop somebody from doing something bad and doesn't stop them, they're also called a rasha. So we see that even a slight transgression can make a person a rasha, and you don't have to go all the way to the point where you've done half misdeeds and half mitzvahs. And how much more so when a person who nullifies, does not do one of the positive commandments that they can do, if even a divrei sofrim, so how much more so one of the mitzvahs. For example, the major one that most people are struggling with every day is that like somebody who's able to study Torah and does not study. All of Darsh Razal that our sages said about this person, that this person despised the word of Hashem and therefore didn't study and they will be cut off, like the pasuk says. And certainly it's simple that this person who is called wicked even more than someone who transgresses a rabbinic prohibition. And therefore the Benoni does not even have the sin of nullifying Torah. And therefore Rabbah was able to confuse him, was able to make the mistake and say that he was a Benoni Haga. And note, now it says in Zohar that anybody whose sins are few, they're the tzaddik viralo. So it is measuring the amount of averos. So that's the question that Rav Hamnuna asks Eliyahu there, that he meets Eliyahu and he says that the people who, isn't it so that the people who have a small amount of averos, they're the tzaddik viralo, and therefore they have a bad life because they get punished for the small amount of averos they have in this time, and that the Rishaim, their Rasha V'Tovlo, is the opposite, somebody who gets a reward in this world because their reward is small, their good deeds are small, therefore they get it in this world. So that he shalas Rav Hamnuna Eliyahu. That's the Havamina. That's what Rav Hamnuna asks Eliyahu. Eliyahu Sham. But according to the answer of Eliyahu there, that he says that the dinim of Kutshubrichu are amikin, that really no, it's much deeper than that. That it doesn't necessarily work like that, but rather if you have a limb that's sick, you might cut off that limb to save the rest of the body. Or if you're, for example, it doesn't necessarily correlate with the amount of sins that like a doctor who might take off one limb to save the others. So the tzaddik might be punished on behalf of everybody else, even though that tzaddik doesn't necessarily deserve it. And you can't necessarily correlate the judgments exactly with the sins of the person themselves, and you can't measure it with the number of sins. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says, is that according to the answer of Eliyahu, we can match it with the way the Rai Mehemna says it, that it's the bad that's in him is subjugated to the good. It doesn't. You don't have to deal with the number of sins. But there are 70 facets to the Torah. In this, that we say in general, that half and half is called a Beinoni, someone who has half sins and half averos, and the majority of their actions being merits, they're called a tzaddik, Hushem HaMushal. So that's a borrowed term, Linyan Schar Va'onesh, only concerning reward and punishment, because you're judged that way. And the heavenly court judges the number of sins. And they're called righteous in their judgment, because the court ruled in your favor. But that's not how you describe the person. That's how you describe the judgment. And how to say this person is a tzaddik, this person is a rasha, this person is a Beinoni, but to the true description, and the greatness, and the differences between the levels and the divisions between the righteous and the intermediate person, that's the difference between them. Because now we made the Beinoni so high that it seems like a tzaddik. So what's the difference between the tzaddik and the Beinoni if this Beinoni also didn't do any averos? And this is the distinction that our sages said, that the righteous are ruled by their Yitzur Tov. Like David HaMelech says in Tehillim, that my heart is empty inside of me. That our sages said about this, that he does not have an evil inclination, because he killed it through fasting. But somebody hasn't reached this level, even if their number of merits they have are more than the number of sins, they're not on the level of a tzaddik at all. Therefore, as he just said in the Medrash, that the Holy One Blessed Be saw and that the righteous people, that they are few, and therefore he stood and planted them in each generation. Like it's written, that the righteous are the foundation of the world. But so that's all the questions. Now to start explaining, according to what Rav Chaim Vital says, B'Sharei Kedusha, Ubeitz Chaim Shanun Perek Beis, that every single Jewish person, whether they're righteous or they're wicked, there's two souls in them, like the pasuk says, that I have made souls. I've made a person composed of two souls. That the Nefesh Achas, one soul, mitzad klipa v'sitra achara, comes from the side of klipa, and the other side, that which hides Hashem, like a shell, v'ha mislabeshes b'dam ha'adam, and that soul is enclosed in the blood of man, lahach yesaguf, to enliven the body, k'dichsiv ki nefesh habasar badam, like the Torah says, that the soul of flesh is in the blood, and like it's explained in Shari Kedusha there, that all the bad emotional attributes come from the four fundamental elements of that the Torah divides the body into four fundamental elements, like the Ramban says in his Hakdama to his Perush on the Torah, and that is there you have anger and haughtiness, that comes from the fundamental element of fire, that is lifted above, and the desire for pleasures, that comes from the fundamental element of water, because water greatens and grows all types of pleasurable things in this world. And wildness and silliness and proclaiming one's own praise and words that are meaningless, that all comes from the fundamental element of the wind. and laziness and depression come from the fundamental element of earth. And also the good attributes that are natural to Israel, like our sages said, that we have a natural inclination towards mercy and kind acts, like Rahmanim and so forth. Bos Mimena comes from this soul, from this natural soul that's enclosed in the blood. And why is that? Because this soul in Israel comes from the Klippas Noga, the shell with the shine, the cloud with the silver lining. In Yechezkel's Nevuah, he saw Eish Gadol Onan Gadol Eish Mislakachas, and so forth. He saw three concepts. Eish Onan Gadol Ruach Sa'arav Eish Mislakachas. And so he saw these three concepts of the three klippos. Then you have the klippas noga, and that around the cloud Renoga Lo Saviv. So that's the fourth concept, that you have the shine, you have something good and positive within the natural order, even though in general it hides Hashem. You can't recognize Hashem within the natural order, but you do have within Israel a positive side to this natural, something divine, something unique that's within it. Sheish Bagam Kein Tov, that also has a fundamental goodness in it. It's a das tovira, and that's the concept of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That the klippas noga is this concept that is divided into good and evil and can be elevated to the good or brought down to the bad, like the knowledge of good and evil. You have this concept of free choice to do Torah mitzvahs. Which is not the case with the souls of the nations. In Mishar klippos tameos, they come from the other impure klippos that don't have good at all. And this is the concept of Israel is divided from amongst the nations and chosen from amongst the nations to be Hashem's people, and therefore they were given a special quality in comparison to all the other nations in their spiritual source. It doesn't mean you don't have good non-Jews or bad Jews. It just simply means that conceptually, spiritually, in the source, the Jews come from the Klippas Noga. Their souls come from Klippas Noga, and therefore, in general, they have this positive quality, which is not the case with the nations. That their spiritual source comes from this concept of Klippa that doesn't have good in all. That it says in Eitz Chaim that all good that the nations do, that all the nation good that are within the nations, it's really selfish. If you look deeper on the spiritual level, you'll see that they're not able to have this divine selflessness that's embedded within on a deeper level. And let's, like it's brought in the Gemara on the verse that the kindness to the nations is a sin. So why is the kindness of the nations a sin? Because all charity and kindness that the nations do is only for their own benefit, to make them aggrandize themselves and so forth. And that's the first soul.